A couple of years, like 4 or 5 years ago, I got sick where I couldn't figure out what was wrong, and I couldn't digest food. I wasn't able to do anything, and I started looking at like what makes a person healthy. It really came down to eating nutritious food. Nutritious food helps you, like live a better lifestyle. It makes you happy, and like it forms a lot of what you are as a person. And so I went down the rabbit hole, like doing research and like what is happening to our food, why is it losing nutrition over time, and then I realized that the health of our soil and our ecosystem and the farms is getting much worse. We're moving into farms that grow only one thing. Soils are degrading, they're eroding into oceans. We're losing all this really nutritious soil that has been created for hundreds of years, billions of years, yeah, and like modern agriculture practices are just making it, like degrading it, and like a lot of that, like 100% of what creates food is soil. Like when you plant a seed, the soil life is what is making that food nutritious and grow. And so, like I stumbled into this farming thing, even though I had those ideas, but I've came to just realize how important soil is and our ecosystem, and how, I really wanted to grow nutritionally dense food because it means that people, like our families and friends, can all have like the food we want, and like it solves a lot of health problems, and it removes a lot of things. And
why is soil so important to sunshine permaculture? I think you can look at it, very philosophically or like existentially, meaning that like if you don't have soil, you basically don't have life. So all the chemical foods that we're eating is not sustaining our life. Like we're alive, and but people are sick and there's no life. That's like the philosophical existential take, but the more practical take is that when you're farming, if your soil is not healthy, we believe that you can't really be profitable as a farm, because you need to keep putting in really high inputs, whether it's chemicals or synthetic nutrients, and you have to keep adding that. And you're never going to come to a place where you feel good about running your farm if your soil is not healthy. Even in the worst year, if your soil is healthy and it doesn't rain, we've seen that people can be successful in farming.
We left our tech jobs in New York to move to Chiang Mai to run a farm, and we worked in tech for a long time, and we really liked our work, but it just seemed like this was the right time because we're young. We have the energy to start a farm, and we had the opportunity where Avika's aunt had a farm, so we didn't really need access to land, which is probably, I think, the hardest part of starting a farm is just getting a piece of land and getting the money ready to go. And I think that was alleviated from us, but so we were able to start a farm and have this opportunity. Yeah, but farming can be very low cost. Chemical agriculture is expensive because you have to buy a lot of inputs for your farms. But when you focus on soil health and you focus on rehabilitating ecosystems and the water cycle and the nutrient cycle on your land, things get very cheap over time. you can make a lot of the things you need for your farm on your farm, which is what we're trying to do. We're trying to get to a place where like we can use the banana leaves and use them as mulch on our farm, or like the grasses we grow and use them in our garden beds and make compost from it. And so that brings the cost down pretty low. Yeah, and we're fortunate to live in like a tropical country where you have such vast access to how many plants you can grow. Learning how to do expenses really well, making sure that like you focus on like what you can make before you worry about the expenses too much is very important to us. So we look at like what we can get out of our gardens and then how much we're putting in and kind of balance those. So yeah, I think the hardest part of farming is just like making sure that you can financially run a farm and turn it to a profit, because it's not going to last super long if you don't, or it's not like a lifestyle that you can live. And the other is soil. Like if you're starting off with really degraded land, it's very hard to make money growing vegetables, because unless you want to put in a lot of compost, which costs money as well. So learning the right middle ground of how much vegetables to grow and how much money you want to put in is probably the hardest part.
What drives us and what's our fuel, and what's like the inspiration behind the work that we do? I think when I took a minute to think about it, it seemed like the thing that mattered most to people was the health and the health of their friends and family. Like when you see a family member go through, you know, like Abby, go through like really difficult struggles with your health, you know, there are moments where you just wish that that's all you had. When you don't have it, you wish that it's the only thing that you want in your life. When you're not healthy, all you want is your health. So I guess living in times where it's so easy to not be healthy and that's the norm, it's really difficult to see. As your parents are aging, you don't want them to, you know, go into like a terminal illness and have them spend like a significant portion of their life being ill. And then, you know, you realize that it all comes down to food and what you eat. That's like 98% of what your health is. So I think that is a lot of what we are inspired to do, but we also, I think we're a little bit disheartened by what we saw was happening, and we had this freedom in our life to choose what to do, which I think a lot of people don't have the choice, but we did have that freedom, and we thought choosing this was a good thing to do, with that privilege of having the freedom to do this. And it's not just human health, it's also like the health of the whole ecosystem, which is vital to sustaining life on the planet. Yeah, it just goes into realizing that without soil, you don't have anything, you know, like even for the future generations as well. Like if we have all this wealth for them, but we don't have soil, you don't realize that they can't really grow up healthy.
ก็ทำมาก่อนเนาะพอดีคุณหนูหคนงานมาให้ทำป้าก็มาทำตรงนี้แหละค่ะพอได้ประมาณสัก3-4 วันคุณหนูก็ถามว่าจะเอาคนประจำป้าก็เลยตอบเลยว่ารับทำตรงนี้ค่ะเมื่อก่อนทำสวนข้าวโพดอะค่ะข้าวโพดถั่วลิสงค่ะ
แล้วดีไหม
มันก็ดีอยู่ค่ะ
ทำไม
แต่
เปลี่ยนงานอ่ะ
เพราะว่าที่ป้าทำป้าไม่มีไร่มีสวนอะไรเนาะป้าต้องไปเช่าของทำมาค่ะมันก็ดีเป็นบางปีค่ะถ้าวันไหนถ้าเศรษฐกิจไม่ดีถั่วลิสงราคามันก็ลดลงก็ขาดทุนแต่ถ้ามันเศรษฐกิจดีมันก็ได้ค่ะ
ป้าก็เมื่อก่อนป้าไปเป็นแม่บ้านอยู่ศรีสาเนาะถึงลุงเนี่ยลุงก็เป็นยามพอดีว่ามาอยู่บ้านคุณหนูถามมาอยู่นี่กับป้าวันก็เลยมาค่ะสบายดีค่ะชอบทำอยู่แล้วค่ะ ป้ายังทำในบ้านคุณหนูด้วยเพราะว่าเฮานี่มันปลูกผักมันไม่ใช่ปลูกสารพิษอย่างคุณหนูเขาเนาะปลูกป้าเขามันจะใส่ปุ๋ย
มีสารเคมีเยอะ
มีสารเคมีเยอะค่ะ
ไม่มียาด้วย
ก็มันก็แตกต่างกันไปพ่องเนาะ
มันไม่ค่อยดีเวลาเรากินไปหรือว่าเราทำมันเข้าแบบจะเข้าตามเส้นขนนะถ้าเวลามันมีสารเคมีเนาะเหมือนยาพ่นหญ้าฆ่าหญ้าอะไรเนี่ยเวลาเหงื่อเราออกมันจะต้องเข้าในเส้นในเลือดของเรามันไม่มีความปลอดภัยอะค่ะแต่ของคุณหนูเนี่ยไม่มีสารอะไรทัก
ปลอดสาร
พิษค่ะแบบใส่ปุ๋ยแบบเราทำเองไม่ต้องมีสารพิษ
ใส่แต่ขี้วัวอย่างเดียวเนาะก็ไม่กล้าสักเท่าไหร่ค่ะ
เท่าไหร่
มันก็กลัวอยู่เนาะ
แต่จะกินต้องเอามาแช่น้ำเกลือแช่มันล้างก่อนกิน
ตรงนี้ไม่ต้องล้างมันล้างน้ำเปล่าๆกินได้
เด็ดต้องเป็นได้
เพราะเราทำเองอยู่แล้วเนาะที่นี่อ่ะ
ไม่ต้องล้างกินได้เลยปลอดสารพิษยอมรับแบบอยู่ตรงนี้สบายไม่มีโรคอะไรเนาะก็ไม่มีสารพิษ
ไม่ต้องกังวลแล้ว
ไม่ต้องกังวล
มันดีใจตื่นเต้นกันค่ะเวลาได้เก็บผักก็ตื่นเต้นกันช่วยกัน
คุยกันว่าตั้งแต่เราทำมาที่ไหนเราไม่ได้ไปส่งที่กรุงเทพเนาะตรงนี้แหละเป็นชีวิตที่แบบครั้งแรกในชีวิตของป้าเขาดีใจค่ะยังคิดอยู่ว่าคุณผู้ชายเขาจะจ้างเรานานไหมยังคิดอยู่กังวลอยู่ทุกวันเนี่ยกลัวว่าวันไหนเราไม่ได้ทำล่ะเราจะทำยังไงเราจะไปทำงานตรงไหนเราก็แก่แล้วแบบเนี้ยที่พึ่งเรามีอยู่ที่นี่แหละทุกวันเนี่ยค่ะ
ขอบคุณค่ะ
ป้าเขาก็จะพยายามปลูกผักไปจนสุดชีวิต
So in Chiang Mai, we're in the wet dry tropics, which is the part of the world where you have a monsoon season and a dry season specifically. So for 3 months out of the year we have heavy rain, and then for about 7 to 8 months we have dry season where the evaporation is really high and we're losing a lot of water. So for that reason we have about a series of 8 ponds on our land that are connected with a channel, which allows us to move water through them. And fill the different ponds. And we're at the largest one here right now, which holds about 5 million liters of water.
So we use the ponds to irrigate our gardens, and we use it for drinking, irrigation, and personal needs.
Yeah. The good thing about this pond is it's connected to the flood exit that comes from the large mountain. So this pond fills up really fast, and the rest of our ponds aren't connected to that, so they haven't filled up. But this gives us a lot of water that we can move between ponds as well. What is regenerative agriculture to us? Simply, it's when you're putting more back into the land than you're taking out. So, you know, like a lot of the current agriculture practices are basically like a mining company where you are mining the land for nutrients and then exporting them off your land. But the way we think about it and the way regenerative agriculture thinks about it is you are building ecosystem health for birds, for snakes, for spiders, for everything that lives on the land, and you're giving them homes and an ecosystem to live in. For birds, that means providing natural ponds for them to drink water in, or providing them with prey to eat. That means you are bringing all these different animals and giving them homes. But it also has a really good focus on, or we focus on soil health, where you think about what the soil needs, what kind of foods should we give the soil. Like it just, because a lot of the life depends on the soil, a lot of these predators depend on the soil, our food also depends on the soil. And so, like regeneration is like a cycle almost, where you have to think about when plants are created and then when they die, it's a loop. And like the more you can have those on your land, and more you can facilitate, then regeneration happens on its own. Like just even building a pond, like we've seen so many birds like drink water from it, and those birds actually bring a lot of seeds a fruit they eat on other lands. So we're getting a lot of native trees that are growing on our land now, which is, when you foster life, it just keeps growing. And